We're just going to give it another minute. For those of you on the phone, we are going to mute you, but if you have joined via your laptop, if you please make sure that you mute your phone, that would be very helpful to us. And if you have any questions for those of you joining on the phone, if you just enter those into the chat box, I have Jessica Driscoll here that's going to help kind of direct some things behind the scenes and feed us questions as we go through this. So by all means, please leverage the chat box, and we'll answer questions live and in Memorex. And we'll be right back with you here in just a minute. Welcome to a new Workday. Like it went over about that well in all the other sessions too. So let's talk a little bit about Workday and the reason that you're here. First and foremost, this session is really to help you be successful day one, week one, and month one. There's a number of different things we're going to do within Workday. You'll see not only what we're going to show you through this demonstration today, but also all the things we have coming. Right, but we're not going to talk about things like benefits because we're not quite to the open enrollment period, a little later in November. We're not going to talk about performance reviews because that comes at the end of the year. And while we could do that, you'd be a little overwhelmed. And quite honestly, you probably wouldn't remember everything that I share with you, so you might as well do that a little bit later. So we'll really try to focus in on the key things to help you be successful right now. We'll walk through a demonstration, I think, that will enable you to see that, and then be able to ask some questions along the way as well. So by all means, don't hesitate to raise your hand and we'll ask some questions and go through that. Right? You may table some of those questions until someone actually get to that area, but we'll make sure that when you walk out the door, you are pretty well informed. Right? So let's talk a little bit about what is Workday. Workday is an industry-leading state-of-the-art HRIS system. A fabulous name for Human Resource Information System. I think it comes across, quite honestly, as an HR initiative here at HomeSite, but it's much larger than that. This is not just an HR initiative or project, this is a HomeSite initiative. And why? Because Workday and migrating from some of the various systems we have into Workday allow us to take advantage here at HomeSite of our greatest resources. Our greatest resources are you. The people that are actually doing the work, making the needle move forward. So the idea behind this is to be able to capture more information about you to help us continue to do that. Information, things like your skills, your certifications, your projects that you've worked on, your interests, the teams that you've worked on, even things that you aspire to do, so that as new opportunities arise, whether it's a new team, a new partner, a new project, whatever that happens to be, we can better align resources, skills, certifications to those opportunities. So the more that you share in Workday, which is a little bit different from ADP, the better off we'll be, all right? And we'll show you exactly what we mean by that as we get into the tutorial. You're all familiar with smartphones, right? I mean, everybody loves them because I see everybody walking down the hall like this all the time, right, kind of typing away. I liken Workday to a smartphone. And the reason I say that is within Workday, you're going to see things like these various apps, or what they call worklets. And if I want to do more on my smartphone, I add apps to my smartphone, whether it's something like Waze, Uber, Facebook, LinkedIn, right, whatever that happens to be. That app allows me to do something very, very specific, right? Make sense? Same thing happens in Workday. As I look at the various activities that I want to accomplish, I look for that specific app, whether it's something as far as personal information about myself, something within my benefits, something within my time, or something within my absence, which is a fancy way of looking at PTO or other reasons I'm out of office, right? There's an app for just about everything we want to do. Make sense? Pretty straightforward. So the best way to do this, I think, is to walk through a demonstration to show you what some of those key areas are, help you navigate through that, because as I just mentioned, we are absolutely going to do more and more within Workday. Slowly but surely, we are sunsetting some of the various systems we have. ADP is one of those. We are no longer doing time cards, for example, in ADP. We're going to do that in Workday. So the only thing we're doing in Workday is actually leveraging to do payroll. So they're not completely going away, and we'll show you how you can access that type of information to help you continue to be successful. Make sense? I have with me Michelle Yoder, who is a member of our CAN agent network, our Change Agent Network. We have about 75 CAN agents across the organization in Akron, Boston, Phoenix, and Seattle. They have had a little bit extra time in the system, but I'll let you in on a little secret. We kind of threw them into the deep end. We didn't give them any job aids. We didn't give them any train-the-trainer sessions. We didn't give them really much access. We just kind of tossed them in and said, hey, go do this scenario and let me see how it works. Kind of fend for yourself, which was not very nice to our CAN agents. But one of the things we were trying to prove is just to show how easy it is to navigate and find your way through it. It's a pretty intuitive system. I think it's much more intuitive than ADP. I know you all love ADP, but that's okay, right? So, and I think you'll see that in this process. I also have with me Jessica Driscoll, who's a part of the Learning and Development Organization. She's going to be kind of my behind-the-scenes director. My name is Eric Vanderveen. I'm a part of Learning and Development and HR here based in Akron, although as of recent times, I'm based on an airplane. So I've done these sessions just about everywhere. So by all means, I think we can answer and address any questions that you have. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to step out of the limelight. I'm going to let Michelle take you through this demonstration. I'll probably chime in and add some color commentary along the way. By all means, if you have questions, we'll speak to that. And those of you who are on the phone, by all means, please leverage the chat box. We want to make sure that we answer everyone's questions today. All right, Michelle, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. So a couple of things I want to show you here on the homepage. You'll see what Eric was talking about, with this being kind of similar to your mobile phone, right? You have all your applications over here. You can go in and do really exactly what they say you can go in and do. You can enter your time, you can enter an absence or a PTO day. We'll come back to those in a minute. You can see, so first thing I want to really point out is this W up here in the corner. If you're in an application and let's say you're buried down somewhere and you're not really sure why you're there or how to get home or what to do, just click this W. It'll always take you back to this home page, okay? The next thing I want to show you guys is the search bar. Let's say I wanted to find some information about one of my coworkers, like where they are located, their email address. You can type their name in there. You can click on their profile. It'll show you what they do, what their title is, who they report to, what office they work out of. You can see that up here. The HS stands for home site. You'll see this throughout the system. We'll have AF for American Family. So you're going to see those abbreviations throughout the system as we work through some demonstrations here. And you can kind of find people that you need to find or find processes that you need to do. So if I needed to enter time, I could search time and it would return results, right? So one of the things that's nice about this search bar is it's intuitive, and the more you use it, the better the results are that kick back. It's very similar to a Google search. So it returns things that are associated with whatever word you type in at the top. Okay. The next thing I want to show you, from the home page, if you look at it here, is your notifications. If you come in here, you'll note they're from the last 30 days. You can sort them by newest to oldest. You'll see a lot of these drop downs throughout Workday where you can go in and take certain actions using those drop downs. The notification section is just that. It's just notifying you that something happened in the system. Nothing in this particular area of Workday requires you to take any action. So in this case, it's telling you you canceled some time off and that it was processed, right? So you don't need to do anything further. Your time off request has been canceled. You can look at the details here if you wanted to. You can come down through here and kind of see what all you've done in the system over the last 30 days.
Just bear in mind a couple of things. When you're looking at a training environment, not a live environment, because we really don't actually have Michelangelo working here. But at the same time, think of the notifications as kind of your paper trail without the paper, right? So as I do an action or I do an activity, right, you try to remember, gee, did I submit my PTO request or did I submit my time card, for example? That will be in your notifications to help reassure, yeah, I did actually submit that.
If you go to the inbox here, this is the next thing we want to talk about. This is the area where you need to take action on something that has been directed to you, right? In this case, Michelangelo's demo here had some personal information that was changed. So he can come in here from the inbox and actually submit whatever changes he needs to make. See all these edit buttons over here. You can go and edit if your date of birth is incorrect and things of that nature. So anything that's in the inbox under the actions is something you still need to do. So when open enrollment comes, you'll see your open enrollment pop in here. It'll tell you, hey, you need to go make your open enrollment elections, figure out what you want to do with insurance this year, benefits, things of that nature. You can come right into the inbox, make the changes, hit submit, and that's it, you're done. Once you've processed something in here, it'll move over to the archive. This will show you for the last 30 days kind of what you've taken action on from your inbox, right? So in this case, this is an absence request. It's in progress. It got sent to his manager for approval, okay?
A couple things about inbox, right? What I haven't mentioned to you yet is we actually share this tenant with American Family. American Family has been in this system for about 2 years, and we have learned a great deal about what happens in and out of this system. Right, so think of your inbox not as email. You're not generating an email from here. You're not going to receive any email from here. That's not the case. Your inbox becomes your to-do list, right? There's some type of action needing your attention, and that's what's highlighted there where it says 3. That's something new, and you can do it right here in that inbox, right? In this case, Michelangelo is a fairly new employee, so they're asking for personal information. Address, contact, emergency contacts, those types of things, right? So whatever you need to do, you can do it right here and then go on about your day. So we'd like it in Workday, not that you have to be in there every second, but you just want to pay attention to what's in your inbox because it requires your attention and some action from you. Does that make sense?
And Michelle, you have such a sweet, soft voice. So can you speak up just a little bit for everyone?
Sure. Yep. So the next thing we want to show you is the employee profile. You can get to that by clicking on this icon up here. As Workday is live right now, if you had a headshot taken at your location, your office, it'll be uploaded here, so you'll actually see the headshot that you have taken. If there's no picture uploaded, it'll be a cloud. So if you click in here and then click on View Profile, you'll see a lot of information about yourself here, right? So you can come in and see your location, where you work, your manager. You can see kind of your employment history with us. A couple of things to point out here. This has got a lot of information, so we'll spend some time in here. The first thing I want to point out is this team button over on the left-hand side. If you click on it, it will take you into the org chart where you can kind of look at your team members. You can look at your supervisor. If you want to see who your supervisor reports to, you can click on this gray arrow right here. It'll take you up a level, and you can continue to work all the way up through the organization, okay? So if now I'm looking at Eric, if I want to see who's on Wilma's team, if I click this little kind of gold arrow down here, it'll take me down to Wilma, and it'll show me who all reports to Wilma. So this is a great tool to navigate. I mean, especially for me, in my experience, cross-departmentally, when you're looking for someone, you need to reach out to them. This is a good way to find them, who they work with, who they work for, what they do, that kind of information.
Like, this is a great source for any number of reasons. I've been here for almost 3 years. I've never seen an org chart at home site. But it's not just the fact that you have an org chart. Think of a time where you needed to work with, maybe it's Michelangelo, but now Michelangelo is on vacation. But now you can see who else is on his team or her team and be able to reach out to that person who may be able to assist you. If that's not the case, you can at least see who that individual reports to and try that as a resource. So it puts more information at your fingertips because you don't know everybody, you don't know everybody's names and faces. And quite honestly, when you look in Outlook, you can see a name, but you may not be able to see a location or you may not see a phone number, right? It just makes it a little bit convoluted. And in this case, you could click on their profile, see where they're located, see their email address, information to be able to reach out and contact them directly.
Going back to the employee profile, the next thing we'll look at are the categories on the left-hand side here. You can come down and see there's a lot of options to look at different things related to you as an employee, right? You can look at your performance, your time off, your benefits. All of these applications are also available on the homepage that we saw earlier. So this is just showing you that Workday has multiple ways to access information. You don't necessarily have to go back to the homepage to look at, say, your benefits and what you're enrolled in. You can just come to your profile if you're already in here, click and see what exactly you're enrolled in. Another thing I want to show you guys is the career section. You can think of this as like a resume, right? Like an internal resume at home site. You can come in, put your job history, your education, projects you've worked on, things you're interested in for your career. If you have certifications for various things, you can input all of that information here. This is really helpful because as you might apply for jobs in the organization, HR, other managers can come in, they can see this section, and it'll act very similar to a resume, right? It'll give them a lot of background and history on what you've done here, kind of your experience.
It basically gives us a searchable database. So think about being able to, like, we're going to build a new sales team, for example, for a new partner. So I can look at who has certain skills or certain past projects or activities, certifications, those types of things, and now I could better leverage those resources, one, providing you a new opportunity, but also, more importantly, leveraging the resources we have to help us move forward as a company. And it's accessible across the enterprise. So as I mentioned to you, American Family is in this tenant as well. Information that's visible in your profile is visible to them as well. In January of 2019, the general will come on board. So literally across the entire enterprise will have access to who works here and that type of information.
The other thing in the personal profile we want to show you is the Actions tab here. Again, this is just another way to access information that's available throughout Workday. You can look at your benefits, you can look at compensation, job change, all of this information, and come in here and take actions through this as well. Okay.
And Workday just gives you a variety of avenues to access the same type of information, whether you like it from the apps page, whether you like it from your profile, whether you want it from the Actions tab. I think you'll find your own cadence to that and which one you prefer. I'm guessing it'll probably be from your profile, but again, it's a guess. It just gives you a multitude of avenues to access and reach the same types of activities you want to accomplish.
The next application we want to show you is the personal information application. You'll notice in here you have change and view. This is information you can change right from here, right? So if you say you got married, you can come in here, you can update your name, whatever your new name might be. In this particular change, it's required to get HR approval, and you have to have legal documentation in order to do so, right? Because this is changing a pretty big thing. This is changing your legal last name. So you can upload things like a marriage certificate, divorce certificate, whatever it is that's causing you to change your name. You can actually select files and upload that right here and submit it. That'll kick over to your HR specialist for final processing and start the process to change your name in the system. So you have a lot of self-service options here. I'm not actually going to do it because it'll error out because we don't have an attachment and anything to add here. But that's how it would work. And it would show you also who it triggered to, what status it's in. So like, let's say it triggered to Jeannie for Akron. It'll show you if Jeannie's responded to it or taken any action on it, and what she's done with it, and where in the process it's at. You can watch the whole history of your changes that you've input and how they've kind of run through.
So let's slow down and make sure we're connecting all the dots here for you, right? So here's a perfect example of more self-service at your fingertips, rather than making copies or scanning copies and then walking over to find somebody at HR to access and follow through on something that you're doing. You can do it right here in Workday. You can literally attach a document because you got married, or you got divorced. Exactly, right? Same idea, right? But I can attach that, and then when I submit it, again, I don't have to get up and go anywhere. I don't have to find somebody and make sure that they're available. I can submit it, and you'll have that notification process. One, you'll have a notification that you sent it, and two, that individual will now have something in their inbox that you have sent to them that they know they need to take action on, and you'll be able to see that. So if it was routed to Jeannie, for example, in Akron, or maybe went to Brian in Phoenix, or went to Fedele for Boston, or even Seattle, right? You'll know exactly who has it and who's taking the action on it. So it doesn't quite have that same sense of, I sent to HR and I don't know when they're going to do it, right? You'll know exactly who has it and how they're taking action on it. That's kind of that whole notification and inbox process. Again, not email, it's just that electronic paper trail of the activities that you're fulfilling. And you have access to be able to do all of these things, right? So when you port over information from ADP, I'm a perfect example. I honestly can't tell you the last time I went into ADP to check my emergency contacts or phone numbers, those types of things. So we're going to ask you, going live, go into your personal apps and look at the information we ported over. Are the addresses correct? Are the contacts correct? Emergency contacts, phone numbers? And if not, it doesn't really make any difference which side you enter in on, whether it's change or view. You can still edit that information from either side and just bring it up to date.
Like Eric mentioned, this is in the view section. If you went in here and you noticed that your home address is wrong, you can actually edit it right from in this page. You don't have to go back and hunt it down. The next thing we're going to talk about is time off, right? In Workday, it's referenced to as absence, called an absence. In Workday, it's just vacation time, same thing we call it today, PTO, vacation, whatever it is, wherever you work. You come in here and there's a couple things to take note of. You can request an absence, you can correct something that you've already requested. It shows you your available PTO balance as of today. So as of today, Michelangelo here has 6.16 hours of PTO time available and 12 hours of volunteer time off available. As an hourly employee, you get to take PTO in 2-hour increments in Workday. So when you come in here, you have to add it in a 2-hour increment. So we can go in and request an absence. When you're looking at the calendar, you just click on a day you want to take. If you wanted to take multiple, you can click like this. You can click and drag. It'll highlight them. Whatever is highlighted is what you're requesting. For this particular case, because he only has 6 hours of PTO available, I'm only going to request a half day. So you just click on request absence and choose the type of PTO you want to take. Most often, of course, it's going to be PTO, but there's all these other options available to you in the system. Hit next. So you'll notice it defaults to 8 hours per day. For an hourly employee, a half day is 4 hours. You can come in here and edit the quantity to be 4. I know this block is turned off, but you can type in 4. It'll update down here. And then if you're coming in the afternoon, say in the afternoon, and that will trigger over to your manager when it's submitted for approval, letting them know that I'll be in the afternoon, I'm taking a half day of PTO. If you hit done here, you'll come back to this like kind of main screen and just submit it. And you'll notice it says your changes have been saved. What you'll see, there's a couple more things to notice on this page. These are both gray. That means they've been submitted, they haven't been approved. As an hourly employee, we still want you to have those conversations with your manager that you're taking off. And in this case, in Workday, it requires the manager's approval to go ahead and say, yes, that PTO is approved, and that's okay to take it. Another thing we like to point out, this doesn't replace your current process of whatever your department is, working with either dispatch, working with IEX, whatever system or team it is you use to mark down your PTO. It doesn't replace that because those systems aren't integrated yet. They might be in the future, but right now you'll still follow your normal process, talking to your manager, doing the work in IEX or through dispatch, whatever your kind of process is, okay?
All right, so let's talk through a couple things, and I think there'll probably be some questions on the chat box if there are not already. So let's just kind of talk through that. A couple things to note. When we move to Workday, typically we talk about PTO in terms of days. Now in Workday, we're going to talk in terms of, we're going to convert those to hours. So all of your PTO time as of September 1st was loaded into the system as of that time, right? So one of the requests we have of you, is here it is October, to match all that up. If you've taken PTO time in September, go ahead and add it to the system. Make sense? That way it'll catch it up. One of the other changes that have taken place is typically you would accrue PTO once a month. Now you're going to accrue PTO every pay period. This is a more accurate depiction of the PTO that you have and have earned. Does that make sense? So it'll happen every pay period in the cycle, right? Well, let's go back to what Michelle had mentioned. With Workday going live, we don't yet have integration to IEX or JIRA or Dispatch, all right? So the process is still pretty much the same as it is today, right? How we manage the business becomes JIRA and Dispatch and Workforce Management or IEX. So you still need to do that. You need to have a conversation with your manager. I'd like to take 3 days in October, right? Make sense? I had that conversation. He or she knows it's coming. I go into IEX. I make sure that the business is covered. I get my approval from Workforce Management or from Dispatch or JIRA, whatever that happens to be. I then go into Workday. I request my 3 days. I just make a little note, right? Approved with Workforce Management or approved with JIRA or approved with Dispatch, whatever it happens to be, and submit it. My manager should know it's coming because I already had the conversation. That should help move that process a little forward. And as soon as he or she approves it, as Michelle mentioned, it's gray now, it will turn green. It'll be a green check mark next to it. Now that's a lot, right? So let's stop there and do two things. One, see if you have any questions, and also answer any questions we have in the chat box.
I do have one.
Absolutely.
So we know what PTO we were accruing within a month's time. How does that break down the pay periods then?
Yeah, so it would be the same. It would just be done in hours. So that process, so one of the things I would recommend that you do, since we ported that over PTO based on September 1st, this would be a really good time to look at the number of days, divide that by 8, and see what that comes out to hours and see if that aligns to what you have, right? Also bear in mind that if you have spent any PTO time in September, to go in and put it in. You don't have to worry about that same process we just talked through because it's already happened, right? So that way it'll just balance out what your true depiction looks like. Does that make sense? Jessica, do we have any questions on the chat board?
Yes, I'm just going in order. There is one on payroll, but we haven't gotten to payroll yet, so I'm gonna hold off on
Come back to that one.
You already addressed this, but I just wanna make sure we address it to everyone. Someone asked, so we are no longer using WFM for requests for days off, we can do it through Workday, and that's no, it doesn't replace the current procedures you have in place.
Correct. And I just want to emphasize this, right? Again, you don't have these two interface completely yet, so we're trying to make sure that we do two things. We want to manage the business the way you do today, right? We want to make sure that you have appropriate approvals from whether it's Workforce Management, whether it's from Dispatch, whether it's within JIRA, that manages the business. We have proper coverage. This becomes part of the record of, or place of record, if you will, right? It also replaces your PTO trackers. You remember all those fun spreadsheets? They quite honestly can be a little convoluted sometimes, and certainly for your manager when you're looking at, 6 or 7 or 8 of those trying to balance everything. So I still go through the same process. I get approval from the business side, wherever that happens to be with where you sit. My manager already knows it's coming, so then I place it into Workday. The approval should come pretty quickly. Could they deny that? Yes, they could. I don't think it's ever happened, right? It's certainly possible they could send it back to you and say, well, gee, Eric, did you forget that we had this meeting, or did we, right? But that's why you have the conversation in advance, because they should help be able to provide you some information about what else is coming. Is that clear? Make sense? We have others?
Yeah, it's actually a good question, because I never pay attention. Is this the photo, that appears on Workday of yourself as what appears on the email?
Yes.
Yes, same one. I know you're all thrilled with the headshot.
I don't like mine, but the problem, but yeah, everyone else is different.
And we'll talk about headshots as well, because everybody has said the same thing. Oh, Lord, my headshot, right? So we'll talk about that as well.
Okay, and then just, this is a specific example, but just you can, if anyone else runs into this, what they should do. So someone noticed that on their direct deposit, the old bank account info was there, so she removed the direct deposit a while ago, so she's been receiving paper checks. And she wanted to make sure that just because there's an account in there doesn't mean it's active, although I did try to remove it and it didn't let me.
Right, okay, and we'll come back to that.
Okay.
We'll come back to that when we get into the pay app.
Okay.
All right, excellent. Comfortable with PTO? Yes, ma'am.
Well, this has nothing to do with PTO. Now, yesterday when I had put this up, it kept automatically like knocking me out to where I had to send a validation. Now, is there a way that is going to stop?
Yeah, so, you know, in the go live, right, we had a couple of kinks, as you can imagine, right, not just in the training environment, little kinks, so we're working through that. Part of that was the server. There were a couple of servers that weren't quite up to snuff yet, but I would think that by tomorrow anyway, midweek anyway, we should have that pretty well covered. It shouldn't kick you out.
I do have a few more.
Okay.
Kelly, on the phones, if you could just type in again what you mean by error received from past. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Another question, are we going to cover putting time in because it makes us put in a verification code that has to get emailed to us every time?
Yeah, we'll talk about that, right, because what's really happening, what you're really seeing now is a little different than what it should, and we'll talk through that. And we'll absolutely address time cards here in a moment, because that's important too.
If we are still using IEX for schedule changes, why is it necessary for us to add this to Workday?
IEX or JIRA or Dispatch is covering the business, making sure we have proper coverage. This is your information of record, right? So you still get your approvals because you want to make sure you have coverage in the business. This is your information of record for PTO. So this needs to be up to date to reflect time that you've actually taken as PTO. It should also reflect what you're doing with work. In fact, we'll show you the connection to when you request PTO, that will automatically go onto your time card, which is another reason you want to make sure that you're making sure you have coverage for the work and then entering into Workday.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to read through it. There's two people, I think, having a conversation, but it goes around clocking in and clocking out, which we haven't gotten to
We'll come back
yet.
to that,
So
yep.
we'll address those. Yeah, okay, another question that came in, how are hourly employees' hours logged? We'll get to that.
Get to that.
Talk about verification code, why we need one. Where can you find your yearly statements? We haven't gotten there
Sorry about
yet.
that. All right, so we'll table some of those and come back to PTO. All right, so we're good. Comfortable with that? Kind of managing two ends of the business here. Yes, ma'am.
So Workday is basically how we get paid. IEX is basically,
Right, so think of IEX or Dispatch or JIRA helping to manage the business, but this is your record of PTO and how you get paid.
okay.
So your time card is obviously important to you, right, because that's how you get paid. That's what you need to make sure that you own. That's your accountability to it, and we'll walk through some of that as well. Okay, make sense?
Eric, I need to find you this a few more things. Have you, and I apologize, have you gone through yet to show at December 31st? You can see what you're,
Not yet.
okay.
Yep.
Then everyone on chat, we're getting to your questions.
Okay.
You're just a little ahead of us.
No, good question.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the whole purpose of this.
Okay. So the next thing we're gonna talk about is correcting your absence, right? Like, let's say you put in an absence request that now you figured out you don't really need to take that day off, so you wanna come in and you wanna cancel it. If you come back into the calendar, you click on PTO, you can just cancel this request right here. Like that, it'll allow you to put a comment if you wanted to, if you don't have to.
It's actually going to ask you to put in a comment,
Or will
right?
it?
if you're gonna cancel it, and you can cancel that whether it's been approved with a green check mark or whether it is still submitted for approval, but it's gonna ask you for a reason. And you don't have to be real verbose, right? You don't have to talk about a whole bunch of things. You just say, change my mind, don't want it, don't need it, right? Whatever that happens to be, and out. You don't have to give full, deep, dark definition to that.
So you submit the change, it'll tell you the process is canceled. Anytime you submit or complete something in Workday, you're gonna see this details and process box pop up. If you scroll down, it tells you the details of the action you just took. So I had 4 days here in the afternoon, and then if you look at the process, you can see that I canceled it, it's not pending anything, it's completely done, okay?
That would actually overlay on your manager's information, right, that he would see or she would see that you requested PTO, and now also see that you canceled it because they had not yet taken action on it. If they had already approved it, and maybe this is a week later and you came back in, they would get a notification that you canceled that PTO request.
The next thing we'll show you is, we talked about future balances, right? Let's say, in this particular case, Michelangelo only has 6 hours of PTO available, but let's say he wants to take PTO in December around Christmas time.
You know, take the 20th of December. I'm going to take a day off for my mother's birthday.
Sure. So you hit OK, and then it'll show you, as of now, there's that 6 days that he has. If you scroll over to the right here, it'll show you the ending period balance, including your pending event. So that means you've scheduled PTO off, you've scheduled maybe whatever off, a volunteer day or whatever. You can see that this ending balance here includes what you scheduled out, and that's the total you'll have as of that date you input into the system, okay? So it's kind of neat because we've never really had anything that can predict what your PTO balance will be exactly as of a specific date in the future. So if you use your PTO, you know, we earn as we go, you use your PTO all throughout the year, sometimes it's challenging to figure out how much you'll have available when you want to take vacation. This kind of simplifies that.
And it's a nice little feature to, right, because I'm a planner. Right? So if I'm looking at time off somewhere in the future, I can go to that date and see what I would have accrued by that time. Right? And the system's intelligent enough, intuitive enough to recognize several things. It's going to recognize holidays. So say, for example, the week of Labor Day, I wanted to take the entire week off. It would recognize that Monday was a holiday and would not count that against my PTO. It will also recognize your anniversary date. So come my anniversary date, if my PTO accrual rate changes, it will do so automatically in the system. All right? But it also makes sense, we also have a rollover date, right? So when I reach the end of the year and I roll over, maybe I have 12 hours to roll over. That will happen automatically. Whatever you have left, right? The policy states today you can roll over 13 days, and there's some nuance about 3 days in the first quarter and all that other stuff. So you can roll over 13 days. So if I roll over 15 days, I can roll over 13 days. You understand where I'm coming from? Right? That's your limit. So your manager should have a conversation with you that it's time for you to think about 2 days vacation before you lose them type of thing, right? That's all going to happen automatically as well. So if you have extra time to roll over at the end of the year, that will happen automatically. Make sense? We missing anything?
Yeah.
Tied to
There's a
PTO?
lot of questions that came up. Yeah, I have to type through them here. Okay, dealing with PTO. So we request time through IEX still, and then put approved days in Workday so our soups and coworkers can see when we are here or not here.
Yes. So let's talk through that process again. It's just a system. It's just a system. It shouldn't circumvent the fact I have a conversation with my manager, I would like to take 3 days off, right? I go to IEX or I go to dispatch or whatever that happens to be. I get approval because I want to make sure we have proper coverage. Yes. I know that there are days that are redded out or blacked out. If that's the case, that's the case. It means you would have them declined anyway from your manager because you don't have approval. So I have a conversation with my manager. He or she knows it's coming. I talk to IEX or dispatch. I get my days approved or my date approved. I put it into Workday. I send it to my manager. He or she approves it. It goes into the system. It accounts for your PTO, and And if it was happening this week or any week, actually it'll show up on your time card as well, and we'll show you that when we get to time cards. Does that make sense? You should still have a conversation, right? One of the things we're trying to guard against is I don't want to walk in one day and find Jessica is actually on vacation, and I didn't know she was on vacation, right? Because if I didn't have that conversation with her, I would not ever know that. Make sense?
We did answer Jenny's questions. The Workday show the PTO balances. We're supposed to have total for the year. Does it show accrued? We went through that.
And it's nice too, because the snapshot will give you PTO that you have available today. And you can always go forward in the calendar to look at certain dates and see what you would have accrued by that date, so you can better balance your time.
And this is a little off subject of PTO. I don't know if we cover it though. If someone wants to do a name change, you know, you don't go by Eric, you go by Jim. Do you change that somewhere? Do you want to cover that offline?
I can put that in my preferred name so that that can be displayed, because I like to be called King. I don't know. Come on, that was a little funny.
You've been trying for 2 years.
I know.
I don't do it. So.
Cheesy lines just don't work. So what can you say?
Okay, here's one. The hours that are already scheduled for PTO vacation, do we have to resubmit those hours into the system if we're still waiting to see if they will be approved in IES?
Great question. Great question. Look, again, right, transition to a new system. You may have already requested and have approved time off in October or November or December, right? You already have that approved. So if you already have it, then certainly by all means go into Workday and block off those days in October, in November, or December. You already have approved rates or that approval notice with IEX or dispatch, whatever it happens to be. Put it into Workday. Just make a little note, already approved with Workforce Management. Send it off to your manager. It should be lickety-split, able to approve because you already have done all the legwork. So go ahead and reflect that now, because otherwise it won't transfer over. Great question. Yes, ma'am.
What about waitlisted days?
Yeah, waitlisted, perfect, right? So you're still waiting on those approvals, so I'd wait till they actually tell you, yep, you can have those 2 days that day, right? And then go in and put them into Workday, because what you'd also include is I have approval from Workforce Management or Dispatch or whoever it happens to be. Till such time as you have it, can't really add that in the notes section.
I wanted to address something that I saw pop up in the chat box. They said that changing the preferred name was taking them to the legal name. Have you tried unchecking this box right here? Because that gives you the opportunity to edit these names.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind when you're looking around at that.
Rather be called Mitch than Michelangelo, then you can make that change right here in the preferred name. But she's right. If you don't uncheck that, it's going to want to take you to the legal name. Good catch.
Up to speed.
Okay.
Fabulous.
The next application we're going to talk about is your time. There's a bunch of stuff to talk about here. We'll start with your basic checking in and checking out. When you get here, best practice, log into the system, click check in. It'll document a time for you. You can add a comment if you'd like. This comment is not required. Hit OK, and it'll tell you you successfully checked in. Okay? So you can see here you checked in at 10:14 a.m. That's an easy way to check in, check out, right? You check out at lunch, you check back in after lunch, you check out when you leave, and that's it. That's your day. If you need to manage your time card outside of your checking in and checking out, say you got here at 8, you forgot to check in, now it's 10 o'clock, you need to come in and fix it. You can click into your time and you can edit any information on your time card that you see here. You're going to see a bunch of different pieces of information, okay? So if you look at the PTO, if you remember back when we were in the PTO section, Michelangelo here has requested PTO for Wednesday for 4 hours. It's automatically entered in the time card, right? So right now in ADP, we still have to manually enter PTO. We being either your manager or yourself has to go in your time card, manually enter it, but this automatically populates that in the time card for you, okay? You'll also notice that some things have been submitted and some things have not been submitted. If it says submitted, it means it's been sent to your manager and is awaiting their approval. If it says not submitted, obviously, it's still waiting to be submitted to your manager for their approval, okay? The other thing you might see is needs attention. So this check-in, the reason this particular one says needs attention is because it's an unmatched check-in. That means you've checked in, but you haven't checked out to kind of close out that clock in, clock out cycle, right? So if I try to go in here and update my time to say 8 a.m., okay, I have to put an out time with that. So let's say I forgot to clock in at 8 when I got here, now it's 10, I go in to fix it, it's going to require me to put an exit time with that. So let's say I know I'm going to lunch at noon, now you can go ahead and submit it, and it'll correct that error. So now you can see it puts it down here, it's moved to not submitted. If I were to click submit right now, that would send all of this to my manager. So let's walk through that real quick.
All right, hang on right there. Let's just kind of talk through this before we submit it. Can you cancel that submission? Because there's a lot going on there. So first, recognize we're doing, how many of you swipe cards today? Right? Not too many. Okay. Well, we're doing away with the swipe cards. Now the process is to check in and check out, terminology in Workday, right in your system. So you start your day, you come in, you boot up your systems, couple minutes ready to go to work, right? You check in, and it instantly starts your time card. You don't have to remember what time you started, right? It will instantly give you your time that you've checked in onto your time card. It will also record any PTO that you have sent as a request. Doesn't have to be necessarily approved yet. It'll still show on their PTO, as it does here. The PTO is submitted, not approved yet, but at least it's on your time card. As soon as your manager approves it, it'll be a green check. Right? You can always edit your time card, because I'm sure at some point in time you're going to check in, it'll be 10:15, and you go, oh man, I forgot to check in. Right? It'll happen. No big deal. You can always go in and edit your time card. We recommend that you let the system be your timekeeper. Right? You're not trying to come in and say, look, I know my schedule. I work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I'm just going to populate my time card 9 to 5 every single day. Right? Make sense? Mm-hmm. Except that's not really a true depiction of your time, because you and I both know that it's 5 minutes to 5 and you get that phone call that you actually don't really want to take, but you do, and now you're on the phone till 5:15. Right? That's a true depiction of your time. That should be reflected on your time card. So when you get here in the morning and you power up your systems, I know everybody talks about, I sign in or I swipe my badge today just a couple of minutes before I start. You can do the same thing. Check in the system, but when you check out, it should be a true depiction of your time, because you probably don't always work 9 to 5 because you got one of those calls. You're going to check in, check in and check out for lunch, check in and check out then to end your day. Make sense? Pretty straightforward. You do not have to submit your time card every single day. You could, right? You could. It's not going to give multiple notifications to your manager, right? It would just every day. If I did that every single day and I sent it every day to my manager, maybe to jerk him around a little bit, right? It's just going to kind of overlay it. So it'll say, here's Monday, and here's Monday and Tuesday, and here's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So it's not going to give them multiple notifications. So as much as you may want to jerk them around a little bit, it won't work, okay? However, you notice, as Michelle pointed out to you, it's recording your time, but it also tells you it's not submitted, right? It's recording all of your time for the entire week or that entire day, whatever it happens to be. I would recommend, best practice, you submit your time card at the end of your week, right? Last time I'm checking out for that week, I would submit that time card to my manager. Put yourself in your manager's shoes. Maybe they have 8 or 10 or 15, or maybe you're David Elrod here in Akron or Carrie in Phoenix, and you have 40 people. It's a little cumbersome to remember time cards for 2 weeks and all the nuances and ins and outs of flex time or who was late, and I knew they were coming late, those types of things, who had PTO and who didn't, who used it and who didn't, those types of things over a 2-week period of time. So submit it every week as best practice. Now, I'll also tell you, I will rescind my best practice to your manager's request. If your manager says, I just want it every 2 weeks, don't send it to me every week. Follow what your manager suggests. Okay? Make sense? No more swiping, no more time clocks. You can do it right in your system. But also be aware that, again, what we're really striving for here is a true depiction of your workday. So a true depiction of your workday isn't I get here at 8:30 and I sign in even though, or check in, even though I don't go to work till 9 o'clock. That's not a true depiction of your workday, right? Because I've been here at 8 o'clock or I'm here at 8:30 or I'm not actually working. So it should be a true depiction of your actual hours that you work. All right? And at the top here, you'll notice it helps to calculate all of your time, right? And you'll see all of those numbers across the board. As I reach my regular hours, I might roll over to overtime. That will happen automatically in the system. Even though all of those numbers and calculations may not apply to you, it's going to be there across your time card because, again, it's an enterprise-wide system, and those apply to somebody. Make sense? Pretty simple, and allows you to have that control right at your workstation as opposed to getting up and swiping badges. But again, bear in mind, if you forget, because it's going to happen, you can always edit your time card. Equally, I submit my time card every week, and then I realize, oh crap, I didn't really take that PTO day, so I actually worked. I can go back into my time card. I can make that change even though I submitted it to my manager and make a change. I will have to resubmit it, but I can do that. You can make changes to your time card up until your manager has sent it on to payroll. Then you're kind of out of the loop. All right? Best practice every week. Make sure you verify it. Make sure all the time is correct. PTO is there. Flex time is a good example, right? Maybe I didn't come to work at 9 o'clock, I came to work at 11 o'clock. You can, again, flex time you can just record by checking in, and it's already into your card. Questions? I'm sure we have a couple in the chat box. Yes, ma'am.
This started yesterday. When does this start?
Yeah, so actually, for anyone who worked on Saturday, because that was the beginning of the week, you'll actually need to go in and add your Saturday and Sunday, potentially. If you haven't been in for Monday, and here it is kind of middle of the day Tuesday, you can go ahead and edit your time cards for all those days. We did not do that in ADP to start this pay cycle, and there's always a reminder of what that pay cycle is and when you absolutely have to submit it at the end of the 2 weeks. So go ahead and add that for Saturday and Sunday, Monday potentially, if that was the case, into your time cards and start those now.
All right.
And now we'll go to the chat box.
This is just a reiteration, because I know you explained it, but it kept coming through from several people.
Sure.
So going back to the manager-employee relation, so everything we enter, they do see it, nothing separately to send to them.
Correct.
Okay? And then, so every time we hit submit, the student will get it.
Correct.
Okay.
Look, so the important thing is you can add it to your time card, but until you hit submit, it doesn't send it to them. So you can continue to build your time card until such time you submit it. I can have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but I haven't submitted any of it until I actually hit submit. That will instantly be that notification process. You'll have a notification that you've submitted a time card. Your manager in his or her inbox will have your submission for the time card to approve. They're going to do one of two things. They're either going to approve it, bing, bang, zoom, you're done, right? Or they're going to send it back to you. So if they send it back to you, they will also require some type of note, like, hey, you really didn't take that PTO day. You should go in the system, take it out, and account for the hours that you worked, that type of thing. So they should specifically tell you what they need you to change, and they know that.
Good.
We're good? Does that make sense? A little bit of a different change, I know, but a good change, right? Again, put some things right at your fingertips. You own your time card, all right? You own your time card. This is how you get paid. This is it. So balancing the business with IEX, or dispatch or Java and all those things for PTO. This is a reflection of the true hours you worked and should be a true depiction of the time that you put in. So if you're here till 5:15 or 5:20 every day because you do take that call at 5 minutes before the hour's up, right? That should be recorded here. That's why I encourage you not to pre-populate your time card, because that may not be a true depiction of your day.
The other thing I want to show you guys too on your time card, Eric mentioned removing PTO. Let's say you actually didn't take this, you can cancel it right from within your time card. So if you come in here and just click on cancel this request, it'll remove it, it'll take it off your time card, and it'll take it out of your PTO bank in the PTO section that we looked at earlier. So all of that is done from this one screen.
Yep. And look, there's just a little bit of a difference to that, and only because that was submitted but has not yet been approved. Yep. That's why you can cancel it. If it's approved, she showed you where that minus sign is. It'll pull up your PTO. Just click the minus sign, and it will zero out the hours, hit submit, and it's off. The difference between approved and not yet approved.
So when you're ready to submit your time card, just click on submit. Again, it'll give you you always have the option to enter these comments. In most cases, they're not required. Removal of PTO is required, but in most cases, it's not. It'll summarize all of your hours over here. So you can see, in this particular case, they worked 26.25 hours, which was 4 hours of PTO and 22.25 regular. When you submit it, you're going to get that details and process box again. You just expand it, it'll show you all the hours you submitted, and then if you look at the process, it'll tell you who it sent it to and whether or not they've completed, what the status is, that sort of thing. So once your manager approves it, it'll go in and it'll show this has been approved. Or if your manager kicks it back to you, you'll get an inbox notification saying whatever the manager's note says. Maybe, you know, I don't think you actually took this PTO day on Wednesday, or maybe like you should have 40 hours and you only have 25, can you fix that? That kind of thing, okay? You guys have questions on any of this?
Question in the chat box.
Overall, and I don't know if you addressed this in the beginning or not, so I may have missed it, but where do you find the Workday app?
Yep, we'll show you that in just a couple of minutes. Yep.
So that takes us to feedback. Do you want to jump right into feedback?
Sure.
Okay. So feedback is something that's a great tool that's available in Workday. If you type in the search bar feedback and spell it correctly, it'll take you to this feedback section. There's a bunch of different options here. The first one we're going to talk about is get feedback on self. Then we'll talk about give feedback. Then we'll talk about where the feedback goes once you run through these processes, okay? So get feedback on self. Let's say you've recently worked on a project, you want to know how it went, you worked with Donatello on it, so you asked Donatello for some feedback. There's a couple things to point out here. Who can see the feedback? Everyone or just that worker and yourself? If you think everyone, it's everyone. Anybody in HR, anybody, any employee at home site, any employee at American Family, anybody can go in and see that feedback. So you want to make sure when you're selecting everyone, that it's good, positive, you did a wonderful job type feedback, right? There's also feedback templates available. In the training environment, you'll see 3. In the live environment, there's probably more like 6 or 7. Some of them are geared towards home site, some of them are geared towards American Family. You'll know that by the HS or the AS designation in front of the name of the template. It just builds off our values and what we stand for and their values and what they stand for. So if you ever work cross-organizationally, you can fill out templates based off what company those folks work for, right? So if you were ever to work with an American Family employee, you wanted to give or get feedback from them, you can choose those templates based off where they work. Okay. So in this case, we worked on a project. If I like all these questions, I can just hit submit, and it'll be sent over to Donatello up here, and it will ask Donatello for feedback. If I don't like them, I can just click in the boxes, remove or add things that I want to change the wording of it. If I want to add a brand new question, I can click add and just type in whatever the new question is. And then all you have to do to send that off is hit submit. Again, details and process, it shows what you sent, who you sent it to, the status of it, and what happened with it, okay? If we go back to feedback, let's say now you want to give somebody feedback because they did a really nice job. You can type their name in here and just hit enter, and it'll populate with your available options. If there are multiple people named Vanderveen, it would show every single person named Vanderveen, and you can pick from the list. So you hit OK. In this case, I'm saying great job on the training. So I want everyone to see that, right? You can also come in here and pick badges. So if you're saying thank you, you can pick the thank you badge, and you can submit it. Again, details and processes shows exactly what you submitted, who you submitted it to, okay? In this case, because we chose that to be public, we can come up here and search Eric Vanderveen, click into his profile, and now we can go into that section that we talked about before, the personal section, or the personal profile section, and you can view all the feedback that Eric Vanderveen has received. Okay, so that's the difference between public and private. If we had submitted it privately, only Eric and myself would be able to see that. It wouldn't show on his public profile here. Okay?
Yeah, so look, I just want to reiterate what you just said. When we say everybody, we mean everybody, right? American family, when the general comes on board, everything, right? So look, at Homesite, we are absolutely all about sharing kudos, stoking the fires of good things, catching people doing things right, that type of thing. This is a great tool to do that. And you do that in so many other ways now, right? You have teams with boards and stickers and pictures, right? There's all kinds of great celebrations going on. This is just another tool to do it, and gives you availability to reach out to others as well. I am a pretty good example of that. I work with people in Phoenix, I work with people in Boston and Seattle and Akron, but I can't always add to their sticker board or add to whatever that they're doing to celebrate. So I can do it from here, right? It doesn't replace some of the other tools that you are already leveraging, but it's just a nice way to kind of celebrate the successes, kind of help stoke the fire of success, kudos, celebrate people doing things right. And it's a great way to get feedback from your manager or others maybe on your team to say, hey, what do you think of how I'm doing X, Y, and Z, right? It doesn't have to be public, but at least you can get some feedback to just help generate some information. For example, with one-on-ones with your coaching supervisor or manager, maybe there's some things that you want to tee up going into those conversations. You can have that, get the feedback, and then leverage it in your one-on-one. It's a great way to use the tool.
One of the last things we want to show you is the SharePoint page for human resources. They have a Workday page available on there. You're on the human resource page and you just click on employee resource. You can go to Workday and it will take you right to the page. Just a couple of really quick things I want to point out. Any news related to Workday will be here, right? You see your Workday challenges. Particularly important at the bottom, we have job aids and manager guides. So if you get lost in Workday and don't know how to do something, you can come to this page and utilize these resources and kind of try and figure out what you need to do to get where you need to go, okay? The only other thing I want to show you on here real quick is our Change Agent Network. So this will open up an email that has an attachment that shows you who your change agents are in your particular office. If you click into the Excel attachment, it'll tell you who they are and their email address and where they're located. So if you need assistance with Workday, that you can't figure something out, reach out to one of your change agent networks, change network agents. They can probably help you out and figure out where you need to go, or at least point you in the right direction of who you need to talk to. Okay?
Can you close that page?
Sure.
Yeah, we just had multiple people ask about how to properly get in, validation
Can you
codes.
open another
Workday?
page?
Yeah, it's that thing looks like dropping down.
Yeah.
So in Google Chrome, the way to get into Workday is if you click on this Home Site Applications folder here, you'll see you have various applications that we manage. Just click on Workday. In this case, because Eric is already registered with Okta, this case it's asking for a verification code. Normally it won't, right? Once we get past these little bugs, it won't do that. It'll just automatically sign you in and take you into the application. So in this case, if it does take you to the authentication page, you can drop down here and do SMS or email, and you can send whatever you want. So let's say we want to send Eric a code. It'll send once you hit the send button, and on his cell phone, he'll receive a code that will allow him to enter it and log into Workday.
Right. This shouldn't happen going forward, right? So we're working through a couple of things because we had a couple of servers that were acting a little finicky. So we're working through that. I hope we have that resolved by the end of this week anyway, because with single sign-on, you should be able to enter into Workday and be off and going. If it does ask you for that verification, whether it's email or an SMS, it should be one time for the day. You can access Workday from home, which is exactly why we have Okta, right? So it becomes that bridge. So from your home computer, for example, maybe you needed to enter a PTO day, or you're sick, right? Not that you're going to do that immediately because you're sick, or you need to submit your time cards. You can access, Okta will become the bridge. You use the same login credentials for home site today that you have. It will verify and validate you, and you can access Workday from your own personal computer to do whatever you need to do. Make sense? Questions? We missing any from the chat box?
I saw someone ask about the pay, viewing your pay stubs and everything like that. That wasn't on our list to talk about, but if you come into this pay application, you can do a couple of things here, right? So payment elections, you can go into here, you can add or remove a checking account, you can change the elections of where your paycheck goes. So if you have a checking, maybe another checking that you use for whatever purposes, you can split it 50-50 or however you want to split that up, right? Someone specifically asked about doing your pay stub. That's all still located in ADP, but if you come into this pay section, this external link will take you to ADP. If you click on view pay slip or update tax selections, both of those will take you right to ADP, and you can do all your pay stubs. You can update your tax selections in there if you want to change the number of dependents or something like that you hold on.
What doesn't show there, again, training environment, W-2s, pay slips, and tax forms. So if I wanted to change my federal tax forms, I could do it here directly into ADP. I could view my pay slip directly into ADP, right, or get my W-2s. Also here, which doesn't appear, training environment, in the actions box, you would see a link for Fidelity. So if you're a part of 401 and you want to change that contribution, you can click on that link directly into Fidelity. They will prompt you to enter your information or credentials for Fidelity just because it's secure, it's your information, it's just a double check, even though we have single sign-on, just to make sure you are you, and that's information that's important to you. So we port over everything from ADP. That's what we're using ADP for, right? Everything else we've moved into Workday. Slowly but surely we will do everything. In fact, all those apps that you saw on the page are all active. You could click on any of them. You could click on your benefits, for example, and pull up view benefits and see exactly what you have today. That's hard enough to find in ADP. So it will give you a snapshot of what I've already elected and how much my cost is. It should be nice as we move closer to open enrollment. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so with the Fidelity thing, we are able to see it on here, but if we want to make any changes to it, then it'll direct us to that.
You can go right from Workday into Fidelity.
You still have to make changes through that.
But we can see it, because I've seen on one of the things where it showed like how much of a percentage, we still can see it that it's been out through here.
Yeah,
Right,
you
correct.
can see, because
Yep.
that's a benefit election, so you can still see what percentage you have selected for that benefit election.
Okay.
But in order to change it or do anything with it, you actually have to go out to that.
Okay.
You had a question.
Again, so I know the validation code, we've gone over that, but when we're logging in, so if I do validation code and I'm in it for like 25 minutes, it's timing out that's just an example time frame wise.
Yep.
Is that something that's being fixed with that, so we should be able to have it on essentially all day long?
It is going to time out, much
Okay.
like ADP does, but
Okay.
you should be able to kind of like wake it up, basically.
Gotcha,
It
okay.
shouldn't time you out and kick you out. It might right now, only because things aren't exactly smooth, right? But typically it would give you some type, and I've got to think of the notes, something like restore session or not.
If your Excel or something crashes, you know how it pops up and it says, we've restored this, do you want these documents? It's a message very similar to that, it'll say, we've restored your session, do you want to return to where you were? And you can. The other thing I noticed, because mine is actually, seems to be functioning okay, if you just like click on the address bar and hit enter, it'll pop you right back in. You don't have to click sign on again or anything, it auto logs you on. So in real world, when it's actually functioning as it's intended to, you just go to the address and you're in it. So even if it kicks you out, just refresh the address and then it'll take you right back in.
And it's just kind of going to sleep.
It gives you a little timer when you're in it, like it'll look at, on mine at least, it like my little top tab turns blue. Then you go into it and it says like you have 3 minutes to restore session.
Right.
And then it counts down and you click it and it just pulls it back.
Yeah, or you can just click the button and it'll restore and kind of refresh. We had the same thing when we were doing one of the sessions earlier today. So it can kind of jumpstart it. Make sense? Look, the purpose of why we were pulling you together to do this is really to help you be successful literally day one, week one, and month one. We are absolutely going to add more to what we do and how we can leverage and utilize Workday. We are going to do benefits with open enrollment. We are going to do performance reviews. We are going to do goal setting, those types of things, all in Workday. That's clearly the direction. What this enables us to do is help get you off to a good start without tossing all kinds of activities at you all at one time. It gives us more of almost a month and a half to kind of navigate through. So we're really going to ask you to do a couple of things now. One, go into Workday, right? Pay attention to what's happening in your inbox. Again, not email, just your to-do list. So take advantage and pay attention to whatever's there for you to do. Go into your personal app and validate the information that we've ported over. Refresh, change, edit, whatever needs to be edited. From a PTO stance, if you took PTO in September, go ahead and log it now. It's already after the fact. You don't need to worry about getting approvals because it's already happened, right? But log it so it still gives you that true depiction of your time. If you have time already approved with workforce management or dispatch or JIRA or anyone else, right, for October, November, December, go ahead and log that into the system, make a little note that you have approval, and send it to your manager. Again, that will put it all onto your time card when those days arrive. Make sense? Also, you probably have already seen, as of Monday, every Monday in October, you will see a Workday challenge. Here's an opportunity to win some nice prizes. We have some things like tote bags. We have some of these, if I can get the box open, Yeti-like. I know no one online can see me, but nonetheless, we have these Yeti-like coolers, right? Hot and cold drinks. I think officially he told me cold drinks 24 hours, hot drinks 6 hours with that lid. There's also an additional lid in case you want to put your Pepsi can in here, right? Or whatever kind of Pepsi you like, that you can put in there as well. If you complete all 4 of the weekly challenges in October, you'll also be entered into a grand prize winning of a PTO day. And everybody likes PTO, so it's worthy to do that. And they're going to be tied to some of the things we've been talking about here in the last hour, right? So nothing too new or different. You have a lot of resources around you. The CAN agents are here. HR is here. You have job aids. You'll have some videos. There'll be some video tutorials in Homesite University. You'll have the ability to go back and review this session as well. It'll be recorded, or a like session anyway, so that you can go back and refresh any information. Because what we're trying to do is help you be successful, continue to add to that as we do more things within Workday. Obviously, you'll need some assistance with performance reviews and benefits and those types of things. So we'll just have more and more tools to help make you more proficient, right? The real key is, look, this is a nice change. This puts more abilities in your hands as a self-service, right? Not only just your time card and your PTO, but all the other access that you can do now without going to find somebody, get up and go find them to do it, you can actually do it yourself. And that's a nice little change. Are there any questions that you'd like to go back and cover, anything that comes to mind that we've talked through here this morning, this afternoon? Yes, ma'am.
Will there ever be a reason for us to need to log into ADP anymore?
No. You'll be able to access everything that you need from ADP directly through Workday. And again, the only thing we're going to do there is actually our payroll company. So what you need to view, you can do in your pay worklet. Right? No more time in ADP, nothing like that. Again, Saturday, Sunday, if you started that work week, go ahead and add those hours into Workday now, because that's a true depiction of your, and that's your time card. That's how you get paid. That's what you should own. So make sure that you're filling it out and submit it to your managers then accordingly. I suggest every week. Questions on the chat box?
A few that are specific, so I'll get back to them.
Okay, excellent. Anything else we need to cover? All right, well, I thank you very much for your time and your attention. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a happy work day.
Thank you.